And welcome to another edition of Woodsy's Club Tour. And I've got none other than one of my good mates, Chrissy Lawrence. How you going,
I'm
buddy?
going really well, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on today.
No, it's,
Exciting.
you know what? I actually, sorry, mate. I've taken a long time to get you on here. I've actually wanted
Yeah,
to get
that's
you
all
on
right.
from one of the
I
first
know where I
ones.
sit down on the
Come
priority
on,
list.
mate. Come on, mate. I know how busy you are outside the field. So what's happening, mate? What are you up to now? What's in the life of Chris Lawrence at the moment?
So I started a education company whilst I was playing. Initially, we just sort of helped athletes in their transition out of sport, helping build confidence in learning and finding whatever career pathway, just using education as that platform to support career transition. So end up becoming our own accredited training provider or a private TAFE, a registered training
Yep.
organisation. That's allowed us to work with a number of different groups. Still do a lot of work with athletes, but do a lot of work with school students with traineeships, people transitioning out of careers, and do a lot of work with job seekers, that people are out of work, upskilling them in whether it's
Yep.
digital literacy, job readiness, and help finding them work. So essentially, we are an education company that uses that as a way to help people into new careers.
And this was something you worked really hard on while you played, wasn't it? Like you weren't just one of those blokes that just did rugby league.
Yeah.
You had you and a couple of mates, didn't you come
Yeah.
up with your own company?
Yeah, so it sort of evolved a bit. Like we had, I started a business when I was like 18, and always, even at school, I very much enjoyed health and fitness and business, and I sort of never knew what side I would go down, and it turns out I sort of had a blend of both. So I started a holiday clinic, school holiday clinic
Yep.
company. We just ran footy clinics because I saw the need in the Western Sydney
So
area.
this is when you were 18.
When I was 18,
Oh,
just with
wow.
a few mates. And then we sort of moved into doing some school-based programs around fitness and rugby league. And that was good. And we just got an opportunity to move more into the group fitness space. And then one arm of the business looked at a supplement distributions company. And we sort of then dabbled in a few things. And it was right around probably 2012 that we then landed, I suppose, on education, and it was
Yep.
only the fact that I had a pretty bad experience with education coming out of school. Went from school into university. I loved school, did really well at school. Got into university. I thought, you know what, I'll give it a crack. But had a bad experience, dropped out and failed at that,
Oh,
and then
really?
went down.
What were you doing?
I was doing exercise and sports science.
Yep.
So yeah, funny story that basically it was at, and again I'll name the uni. I've spoken about it before, but Sydney Uni was not very accommodating at all at that point in time
For like an athlete?
for an athlete.
Yep.
Even though they've got obviously the athlete programs. And one semester I basically couldn't attend any of the lectures or the tutorials. Went to the coordinator and said, look, I can't come because I've got training every time. And then the coordinator said, well, can't you ask your coach to change training? I said, oh well, like I'm playing first grade, like it's like the footy you see on the TV. And to which the comment was, well, you got to choose what's more important, kicking a footy around or your education. And I said, well, unless you're going to pay me every month, I'll choose footy. So I did my best and had some mates that were doing the course. Came down to the end of the year, I got picked in the junior Kangaroos squad.
Yep.
We had an assignment that was due, I think, on the Monday. I flew in like Sunday night. I asked for an extension. Hadn't been to like one class all year. They gave me till Wednesday. Anyway, wrote the assignment, it was biomechanics, did the assignment, but used the diagrams of my mates. So got done for plagiarism and got brought in and I go, nah, this is bullshit. I go, like, I'm legitimately trying to better myself and off the field and barrier after barrier. So
Did you have to go to another uni to do it all? And did they accommodate if you did?
No, so I then dropped out, and I had some people that said, no, put an appeal in. This is the way that you've been treated, and I said, nah, you know what, like this is I want to just focus on footy then and do that. But then the flip side is when I just focused on footy, probably the first half of next year, I found that I was too engulfed with like the highs and lows. I'm like, I didn't have that outlet. And that probably led to the education company. Got into a fitness course. I'm like, I want to do something online. I don't want to go face to face. Go down and do a set 3 and 4 online, but struggled with the lack of support. And I was pretty motivated. Once I finished that was where, my business partner with a couple of those other businesses, he went and, like a lot of athletes, came through the system, played reserve grade for a lot of years, never took that next step. Went and did uni like me, dropped out of uni, went to TAFE and did his fitness course. And it was sort of around the same time we were finishing. And it was like, I said, you know what, like I'm very motivated and pretty self-motivated. There's no way 95% of the of
Nah.
athletes could go and do this course I've just done. And I'm like, they can't go to TAFE 4 days a week. There's nothing. I go, why don't we create something that is designed for athletes that meets their needs? And that's, I suppose, where we first started. And we use fitness as the course we started with, purely for the fact that not like that we saw every athlete becoming a personal trainer, but it was such a good stepping stone because everyone had that prior knowledge about fitness. Everyone knew fitness, and at the very least, if it helped players better understand their body and training.
So that was the Cert 3 and 4.
In
I
fitness,
did. I think
that's
I was
right,
the first one with you.
one of the first ones. So
but that was good because we were able to do, what was it, 1 day a week?
yeah, 1 day a week, and that's what we found. You needed to provide the support, the flexibility to change days, knowing that training changed.
Yep.
But number one, having it as a group collaboration. So we all obviously had a group doing it. We had someone in there actually helping you through it, setting the plan so it's not all by yourself. There was a little bit you had to do by yourself, but you always knew every
we had
week
2 or 3 assignments,
Yeah.
but that wasn't even
Yeah,
hard.
but every week or every 2 weeks, you knew if you weren't sure, you could come in, you could and sort of ask. So we've tweaked the model over time, but essentially that was the how we sort of started. And it was a full circle funny. Sort of 4 or 5 years later, we end up doing a research report to help us better deliver our course. That we thought was about going to be a 2 or 3 month process. Ended up taking 2 years because we partnered with Western Sydney University and had our findings academically published in the International Journal of Sports Society, a paper called Empowering Elite Athlete Education, and which basically gave us a model learning we knew was sort of fit for athletes. And then about 6 months later, we did a symposium, which is basically just we present our findings to sort of anyone who came. So a lot of TAFEs and registered training organisations and universities come. And one of the, I suppose, in the presentation was what was the motivation for this. So seeing a few Sydney Uni people sitting in the crowd there, I said, well, Sydney Uni, I was going initially to go on and do physio. And I go, I thank you very much for giving me a really bad experience because I don't think I ever would have gone down and, would have gone down the physio road. So you've done me a favour by, pushing me out after 1 year.
Did any of those people come speak to you?
No, not really.
No.
Oh, but no, sorry. One of the guys, again, and to put it into context, it was sort of one coordinator there. Like it wasn't the uni.
Wasn't the
but
whole uni,
it wasn't the whole uni, but I think at the time I was, just a bit angry and frustrated. And I think I might have said, in the final or when I was getting quizzed by, I think one of the vice chancellors and the unit coordinator about, plagiarism and you'll be, you might be removed from the uni. And I said, that's fine. I'm leaving anyway. And I'm pretty sure I said something along the lines of, if I was a rugby union player, you'd be treating me differently because I was a leaguey at Sydney Uni. But
that is what it is.
But you know what? Best thing that ever happened to me because that's led to number one going, okay, there's such a rigid structure. It doesn't fit athletes. How can we design and have better education outcomes for athletes?
And I remember speaking to you. So when we did our first Cert 3 and 4, wasn't it at the end you'd have to send all our work to a company to sign off on? Are you able now to sign off on it yourself?
Yeah, so basically we partner with a company who owned the course.
Yep.
So we were delivering it on top. So basically it was their course. They owned it. They said, okay, this is our online course. And we said, no, we need to build on extra support. So we built on their course, delivered it, had to send it off. They had to mark it and sign off on it. Now we are the ones who own that course. So now that gives us a flexibility to again, design the course. And we have a few different variations depending on who we are delivering it to, whether it's athletes, our school-based trainees that are doing it as part of Year 11, 12. It's still a Cert 3 or 4 in fitness, but it's just a different structure. Whether it's, people that are within a gym and are doing it as part of a traineeship and are currently doing a lot of on-the-job training. So there's a lot of variations, but that's probably where the biggest, I suppose, growth in our business was. And it was a 2-year process to become registered. Like it was literally a lot of pre-work, a 6-month application process. You go through a couple of audits and interviews, and first time we failed at it in 2016. There's a lot of changes in the but we weren't ready. We sort of not a rushed approach, but there was a lot of changes with RTOs, and there was a big the vet fee help for those. Not a lot probably wouldn't know that, but essentially vet fee help was like HEX at the time. A lot of RTOs. We're just signing up anyone just to get the vet fee help, and there's a big scam. And they overnight shut down 90% of the RTOs.
Jeez.
And so we were applying to become one right around that time. So they were like, just
bad timing. Yeah,
bad timing. Good in hindsight, because we want to do it from scratch, understand inside and out. So we did it and timed it around when I was sort of close to retiring, because we knew it would be a lot of work. But number one, that gave us the flexibility to design our course, and it opens doors to them deliver to other people, put on other courses, and from a business point of view, again, getting into business, you do it, you want to make impact, but ideally at some point you want to have build something that is a valuable asset, and you can leave a legacy. And having, an accredited education company is sort of, you can do that.
That's outstanding. And what about the growth? Because at the start you had obviously us, the Tigers, and I remember talking to you. Obviously, you went to other clubs, and then you were saying, we've ventured into other clubs, but not just other clubs. You've also ventured into other sports as well.
Yeah.
So how big is it growing?
Yeah. So our athlete, so we've put, I think this year we've just ticked over 2,000 athletes across the last.
Was that ever was there ever
years?
a goal in what you wanted to achieve with that?
Yeah, I think there probably was. And again, that probably has shifted now because we're not just working with athletes, and that probably, athletes probably only make up, a small percentage. Like at the moment, we still deliver to about 100 athletes per year, and that averages, and again, it fluctuates. Some might be 80 to 120, and we sort of maintain that because at the end of the day, there is only a certain amount of professional athletes and elite athletes in Australia, and only a certain amount want to do fitness course. So we're not trying to force people to do that. We do work across all sports, NRL, AFL, union, soccer, cricket, some of the Olympic sports, individual sports as well. So footy still would make up probably about 40% still. Main reason one of the reasons they have the largest amount of funding from the NRL. So other sports do have funding, but not as much. So it makes it which again, a lot of players know about, but probably don't realise how lucky they are that most of the education can be paid for when they're playing. Other sports don't get that. If you're not in that sport, you're not getting that. So they can get, up to $3,000 or $4,000, and again, it does change every year, but $3,000 or $4,000 dedicated to then paying for courses per year. Other sports might only be $1,500 or $2,500, and it's only on completion. Or some sports you have to pay and then you claim back. NRL is very forward in that, and they provide a lot of opportunities for the players. But yeah, so across all sports, it's awesome. One of the quite recently, so we've got a group of 5 players at the Giants doing the course, but they've been awesome. Like we find all the successful clubs in doing the course are like, as you mentioned, come in, do it. It doesn't matter if it's a group of 2 or a group of 10, come in, do it together, have a set time, they're consistent, make it a routine. But they've taken it another level. They've actually got the club involved and created like a fit club where aside from the practical assessment we do, they once a week just run a fitness session for their admin staff.
Oh, so the players do it for the staff?
So the admin staff come in once a week, and the players doing the course just run the session.
Because that was one of the tests we had to do.
Yeah, and then that's a practical. So
there's
practical we come down, and then they said, we're just going to keep doing this one day a week. So one day a week, they get anywhere from 5 to sort of 15 staff come down. So, got to go down there again prior to the week 1 of the finals where everyone was buzzing. They sort of, unfortunately, got premature exit. But again, it's just an example about how, they're taking their mind off, sport, doing something else. And again, they probably most likely won't end up being a personal trainer, but if it's stepping stone into education, if it goes into business, if it goes into coaching, like Toddy Payton did our course because he did it when he was about to retire the first time, because he's like,
I did it with him.
He goes, I want to get into coaching, so I want to know the training side of things because I want to get into coaching. Chris Hyington did it, and he's like, I want to get into high performance for surfers, and now he's then back into coaching. And Robbie Farah did it, but he's like, I want to buy business, I want to buy a gym, I don't want to run it, I want to go down the business side of things. So there's, and they're just some Tigers examples. There's other guys who have done some plenty of great things and not even gone down that line. But again, that's why we started doing that, and that sort of branched out across all areas now.
Oh, I loved it, mate, when I did it, and it was a good group of blokes that we did it with as well.
It's good fun.
Back on yourself, mate. You're a local boy from St Greg's. You're a Campbelltown boy. Was it Eagle Vale?
Eagle Vale.
You played with a couple of blokes that played first grade down there as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So
Penny Tungavay?
Yeah, Penny Tungavay, Will Mataka.
Will Mataka, yep.
Yeah, so had back in early juniors, played with Trent Hodgkinson. He was
he was a Campbelltown boy too.
Until they all para-poached. They poached him, Jared Hayne.
Flower?
Israel Folau, I think Tony Williams played.
Oh, wow.
Maybe Tony Williams, but there was a whole group, because I remember they was with maybe under 12s, they got 13s got poached, and then played him in Harold Matthews. they towered us up by 60, and I'm like, well, 7 of their starting 13 are West players. Come on, that's not fair.
It's a great nursery, the West region, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
something that I think the Tigers need to do a lot more with. It's so big. But, mate, talk to us about 2006. How did you find out you're going to debut? Because you were still in high school at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, so it was, I think it was during in school holidays. I came down and did a couple of the younger guys came and did just training sessions,
Yep.
just to get a bit of experience, and then they pick 1 or 2 guys for an away trip to go away as like 18th or 19th man. And Sheens was really good at that. You know, prepare as if you're going to play. You're not playing, but you're just going to go and travel with the team, see what it's like to prepare. And so I was training, and because the school was back then, but it was trial HSC exam, so I'm like I didn't have to go to school every single day, and was just at training. I think 3 days before the game, and then just doing left versus right, some attacking stuff, and Paul Faduira goes down with a hammy, and then everyone runs over and they carry him off the field, and literally Sheensy walked up to me and goes, "Looks like you're playing, kid." And
so that's how you found out.
That's how I found out. So he just walked up to me, and I'm like,
So
okay.
so you played on the Sunday afternoon.
Sunday, it might have been the Thursday.
Wow.
So it was, and so then I'm like, okay, and then we go off the field, and then I think they were like, oh shit, I don't have an NRL contract. I've only got like a West Junior contract. And like, okay, we need to get a contract. And they go, oh shit, you're only 17. We need to call your old man. We're gonna need to. He needs to leave work and come and sign it so we can get it registered in time to play. And so it was sort of a bit of a whirlwind. Then pretty much, I think it was only then captain's run, and then fly to Brisbane and play. So it was, in hindsight, it's probably good it happened like that because you don't get to think about it. It literally just happened all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it was probably only in the sheds when you start to hear the crowd, like Suncorp Stadium, Sunday Arvo, and then ran out for warm-up, and it was only half full, but there's still 25,000 people there. And I'm like,
well,
wow.
that was my next question. Like, how are you feeling and what's going through your head at this time? Because probably a couple of months earlier, you're playing SG ball, Jersey Flag, reserve grade. Now you're at the big time.
Yeah, it was really quick because even sort of going back, played SG ball, had a really good year of SG ball.
That was when it was under 18s, wasn't
it?
Under
18s, yeah. So I sort of, in year 11, had an injury at the start, sort of the start of the year, and then but came back, finished the year really well, played really good in school footy, and we sort of made the semi-finals, and then started the year really well and had a really good year. And I just thought, I'm going to go straight up to Flegg, and I was looking forward to it. And then the Flegg coach at the time goes, look, we've won 4 in a row. Like, I'm just, like, our team's going well. I just don't want to change it. So, look, you can still come to training and train, but next couple of weeks, I can't see you playing. So I'm like, yeah, fair enough, work hard. And then the reserve grade coach at the time, John Dorey, goes, why are you sitting on the side? What are you doing? Are you not training with the team? I said, they just don't want to change the team this week. And he goes, I'll leave it with me. Walks over, chats to Flegg coach, comes back and goes, you're playing cup this week. So,
wow.
Like, what? So I went so it was a bit of a roller coaster. I was like, yes, I'm going to play Flegg this week. No, they didn't want to change the team. Now I'm playing cup. And then played, and they weren't doing well, but it was the gap between Flegg and cup because you're playing against men.
Yep.
It was good. I don't think if I went from, say, Flegg, ball to Flegg, which is the under 20s.
Yep.
I don't think I would have then been ready to go into first grade like 10 weeks later, but I played 10 to 12 weeks of New South Wales Cup, against season sort of first graders.
Yep.
And the contact and
was there anyone that you remember in particular you're playing against in the reserve grade from other sides? Just like how, geez, that's a lot different to what, the way they tackle.
Yeah, I remember playing a couple of the Bulldogs, like the forwards that were in and out of first grade.
Because they were stacked back then, weren't
Bulldogs and Souths.
Yep.
So there's a few at the Souths, and I just remember, played Bulldogs a couple of times, and a couple of my carries out of yard, it just got absolutely pumped because it was just a different strength. Like in 18s, I was, probably definitely wasn't one of the biggest ones, but because I had a bit of speed, my power could punch through at least 5 in my front. But it wasn't doing that.
They got man strength.
Strength. So, but that was a really good, learning curve, and that then again, I must have played well enough or showed enough in those games to be able to sort of warrant Sheensy to say come up and train, and then to sort of give me a crack. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. But as I mentioned, it wasn't until I really ran out for the warm up, and then saw the crowd, and then it started, nerves started to hit me. But Sheens was really good. And I still remember it, and probably set up my whole game. And I walked in before about to run out, 2-minute bell. He just came and said, good luck. He goes, mate, I picked you here for a reason. If you get a chance in the game, just back yourself. And don't second guess, just go back yourself. And then, so end up scoring a try on debut.
Was it your first touch?
Nah, it was about 20 minutes in the game.
20 minutes,
so, and it was a spill ball. Dean Collis passes to me, and I had an open sideline, and I have Sean Berrigan coming across, and I literally go, I should step in, like the safe option, game one, step in, and I just had Sheens back yourself, and I just didn't think and went, and then he just missed me ankle tap because I didn't hesitate and just went.
That was when
he
had the old hair.
Long hair. But I think if he doesn't say go back yourself, I go, like safe option. I don't want to, first tackle, play in Brisbane, it's 0-20. I'll just step back inside. And then again, score first try on debut.
Well, it's funny. The next, one of the questions I had here was playing under Tim Sheens. The best advice, biggest learnings that will stick with you. So obviously,
back yourself. Yeah, back yourself, and you can do anything you want in the game as long as you practice it.
Yep.
So he goes, you can chip and chase on tackle one if you practice it over and over again at training and execute it. I don't care if you do it in the game, but he goes, don't pull anything out in the game that I haven't seen you practice over and over at training.
And the funny thing is, so just off your debut for a second, we've both had a fair few coaches at Tigers and other clubs I've been at as well. The amount of practice on fundamentals in the game that Tim would make you practice, like you'd sort of think, why we keep doing this? But it got to the point where every player could pass left or right. Like I've been at other clubs, players can't pass both sides.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of people over a lot of years were critical of him being an attacking coach and not spending time in defence and not having a focus on fitness. But he would have longer field sessions than any other club, but it was all skills. And so, and his, I suppose, theory was you built, obviously, game fitness. And traditionally, when he was coaching, Tigers teams always started slow because it took their time and he built into the year. But as you said, every single player, and he pretty much said, I want any player with your front row, if you look up and see the winger free, that anyone should be able to throw a 20-minute cut out. Anyone should be able to do a 3-on-2 and execute. If you're back, front rower in the centres and you got a chance, everyone should be able to do it.
What was Toddy Payton's favourite play?
Yeah,
the VC from the sideline.
That's right. Yeah, you come in, drop me. Actually, I scored a try off that. Actually, he gave me Panthers 07. I think he put me through. He dropped back under, and I hit a short ball. But that's. And I think
because we practiced it. It wasn't like it was a fluke. Everything that they did, like Tigers come up with some mad trick plays. But geez, I remember how we'd spend that long practicing it at training.
Yeah, and I think having guys like Benji there, Robbie, because they were so unpredictable in a way, you had to be ready for the ball. None of this, you're a decoy, or if it's gone to the right side, I can take a rest. If it went to the right side and I'm the left centre, I'm getting back because I'm like, Benji would look up, skip, throw a long ball. And if I'm not ready, then that's on me because we practice, you have to be ready. So it did help, again, everyone. And again, knowing that you had guys like Chris Hyington, Toddy Payton, yourself, Gareth, as inside that you could, if you got the ball and looked up and saw it, you were going to hit me. Whereas I think, again, in a lot of teams today, they're probably not getting ready because they're like, I know the forwards can't pass to me. If it gets to them, and even if it's on, I need to get hit by the fullback or the 5'8", and that's where I just think that eyes up footy and that skill development he's the best at, and it's no wonder why he has now coached so many coaches, which is just the amount of coaches currently coaching or have coached.
Well, if you think about it, you go through it, the Australian coach, Mel Meninga, the
New South Wales coach,
and Laurie Daly, the previous couple.
Ricky Stewart.
Bellamy.
Mate,
he's had so many.
Todd Payton.
Benji. As well.
Brett Hodgson. John Morris.
Mate, geez, you don't really think about it until like you sit back and go, wow, how many has he actually coached? Back on your debut. So did you won that? You ended up getting the win, didn't you?
Yeah, beat Brisbane.
Brisbane up there. But I remember Chris Hyington always tells a funny story on the flight home.
Yeah, well, it was the day before my trial HSC exam.
Yep.
So
did you take your study books away?
Yeah, took my study books away because I was like, I didn't study the night before. I was too nervous. But I'm like, I'll just take them away. I'm like, I was very proactive with school and I wanted to do well.
Yep.
And then we won the game and we had to fly day game, so we flew back that sort of that afternoon. and I sat next to Chris Harrington on the
Yep.
flight, and everyone's chatting, everyone's laughing, and I'm like midway through the flight, yeah. And I just remember after the game, first thing, and again, hindsight, and it was a really good way to keep me level-headed. My dad was, like, congratulations, mate, super proud of you, but just remember you got an HC exam tomorrow.
Wow.
Like, just, you've
Yep.
worked hard for that. Make sure, you turn up and you do your best with that. I'm like, yeah, cool. So I sort of got his, what he was saying to me in my head. So I'm
Yep.
like, all right, yeah, you know what? That's awesome. But, 9 o'clock tomorrow, I got the exam. I might as well just pull out my books and start studying. So I pull out my books, start just reading through them. And Heino looks at me and goes, mate, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm studying. Put that shit away, mate. He goes, you just won your first grade game. Enjoy it. And he goes, mate, worry about that tomorrow. Put that shit away.
Because you weren't even 18, were you?
Nah, 17.
Jesus,
Yeah.
man. That's
Fun-
great.
Funny story on and Mad Monday. So I didn't go to the Mad Monday. Probably reason for that. The next day after I did my HSC exam, all the cameras were there and following me in and out of school. And then, as you do, young boys out of Campbelltown, finished, just went to local Maccas and
Yep.
sitting down having Maccas. We're not doing anything bad, but all the camera crews followed us and they're geeing us up. Yeah, get him in a headlock and taking photos and throw ice at him. And so we're mucking around. And eventually, after a while, I'm like, you get feeling, no, I'm just being manipulated here. So I'm like, no, that'll do.
Yeah.
Anyway, back page of the paper the next day, me at McDonald's, got pulled in by the club. Go, look, you haven't done anything wrong. Just be aware you're in the public eye now and what you're doing. So I was like, oh, shit. And so then when we did make the semis, and then the boys were like, oh, we're going to Mad Monday. We're meeting at the pub at X time. And I'm like, I'm 17. They go, that doesn't matter. I'd like come in. And I'm like, nah. And I just had that, I've got to be,
Don't get in trouble, yeah.
don't get in trouble. Like, I just literally had, I'm like,
if only so many players in rugby league had your
so
mental toughness with that.
So I'm
awareness.
like, I'll go, nah. Like, I'm like, no, I'll be there. So I'm like, so I went to school, had a school day, went to school.
Yep.
Had the sports coordinator come up to me at lunchtime and just said to me, we just had an interesting phone call to the school. I'm like, wow, what happened? They go, well, apparently it's Tim Sheens. Didn't sound like Tim Sheens. I go, what did they say? They said, we're after Chris Lawrence. And they said, yeah, I'm speaking to the sports coordinator. Who is it? Oh, it's Tim Sheens. There's an urgent meeting at Concord Pub at 12 o'clock. If he's not there by 12 o'clock, he's got penalties. And he said he's got to come there now. So I go, who was it? And he goes, I think it was one of the boys. Again, they could barely put two words together. So I think they'd been in the pub a fair amount of time. So, and apparently a few of them were peppering the school and calling the school to try to get me to come.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but
That never got out, so that's good.
yeah, but yeah, and that's the thing, as it was, I again probably could go. I would have liked to go on, but number one, I probably again thought it's not the right thing, and again probably goes, and we a bit the same in that old school mentality. Probably didn't feel like I'd earned the respect of the team. I'm like, well, I didn't do a preseason. I got thrown in the team, played 5 games. I'm not really part of the team yet, so that's fine. I wasn't like too worried about missing it, but it was. I suppose for me, it was good the fact that I felt part of it, the fact they actually called the
how good's that?
I'm like, that's actually like, for them to actually go, where is he? We're going to, what it's like, where's this bloke? And you try to call them, and they've done that, and that was pretty good.
Oh, honestly, nothing better. But obviously, you played on the wing your first game. I remember watching you, because I was being a fan, watching a lot of rugby league. You got moved from 5'8" to lock. You played a variety of positions, and you end up finishing your career in the back row.
Yeah.
What was Chris Lawrence's actual favourite position to play?
I think my favourite position would have been the centres.
Yep.
Like I played a bit of everywhere in juniors. Like I was a fullback until I think I started to bulk up a bit, and then they put me in the centres, and one of the rep teams there was a good fullback as well, so to sort of balance the team. I liked and I played Australian schoolboys in sort of as fullback and 5'8", like with Mitchell Pearce and these guys. So I enjoyed that to get my hands on the ball, and again the skill development. I had some speed and was really good, but I think I don't know whether in the first grade I would have had the cardio to be a fullback in that day and age. So then once I sort of thought, I'm going to be a centre, I just started then trying to, how can I be the best centre possible? Like watching, Mark Gasnier, Hodges, and Matt Gidley. They're the ones that I looked up to and like looked at their game and like, what can I pull from their game into my game? Practicing the flick pass, practicing the shuffle to, out. And so I think because I really, and I probably enjoyed, again, 5'8", more when I got thrown into 5'8" because you get your hands on the ball more, and you always, again, you see centers in every team. I need more ball. Give me ball. Like you do. I was the same. I'm like, get the ball out that you just want to get the ball.
Was it harder being at 5'8" compared to centre, like just the amount of movement and defensively?
Yeah, it was hard. It was harder, but I think it was harder because I wasn't there like long term. So I just had to. But again, I had my job was to run. I think if I was there longer term, I would have had to develop more within my game, a better passing game. I was very good at catch pass, but run straight and out the back. When I did drop under, just at my body position. And all these little things, and being able to read defense, my kicking game, I would have had to develop. But I was a good runner. I could catch and pass. If I saw something, I could hit someone early ball. I could drop someone under and bust the line. So that was my strengths there. But center. I think center was my position. I did, and again, Sheensy always said to me, he goes, even when my second year, he said, you're going to end up either a lock or a 5'8". I just don't know which one, because he goes, you're going to bulk up. You're going to probably, get out of the centres, but you got the skill. So you're going to be somewhere, maybe in the back row or 5'8", I'm not sure. So
not a bad judge, the old Tim, is he?
Yeah. But it's funny how, like, the cycles of the game go. Like, when I was in the centres and then had a few injuries that sort of slowed me down, over a few years. And then it was just a good time. And the game changed as well. Like, how the game was played, it was more structured. There was less early ball to centres or less, early shift. It was more structured play, block out the back, full back out the back, long ball to winger. So literally you were just made as a decoy in the centres, and you weren't really, and just became tackle one, hit up. And then the back rowers started becoming more ball players. And so when I suppose I moved in the back row, it did suit my game at the time. And then full circle, my last probably 8 games in my last season, I went back in the centres, and it sort of things started changing where, because there was no centres who I suppose could defend well, read defence, and they were all just really big, strong, for tackle one carries. I found myself actually playing really well again, and then get back in the centres like, how was in a dinner suit? How good's this? Going from 80 minutes in the back row back to the centres was easy.
It's one of the things I say to a lot of people is that they don't practice in the fundamentals anymore. Like, they don't practice how to play. They just, because they're big and strong, they just want to get them out there. And I think the clubs do players an injustice because they don't know how to understand rugby league. Mate, another one. Take us back to the year 2010. One of the best games I've ever seen is the final. No, was it the semi? It was actually the first final, wasn't it, against the Roosters?
Roosters, yeah.
That was one of the best games I've ever watched in my career. Did you feel like that was a missed opportunity, not being able to get that win in that one?
Yeah. So I was injured that game. So I broke my jaw.
Oh, did you?
I broke my jaw about 6 weeks earlier in a game.
I thought you were back for that one.
No. And so I broke my jaw, and I was, the doctor at the time goes, you got a crack in your jaw. You either get surgery now 6 weeks, or you keep playing and just hope it doesn't happen. So I played 2 more games with a broken jaw, and played Melbourne and got in. Someone got me in headlock, and then the whole jaw popped.
Oh, jeez.
And then so 3 weeks before I was, so I sat out that game, and that was one of the hardest games I've had to watch.
I was about to say, for you to sit out now, what was that like watching that?
It was hard because in my head I'm like, if we win, I think we were third or fourth. Week off, and I'm like, I'm back. Like
prelim.
I'm back prelim. I'm confident. They said everything's healed by that time frame. If we lose, and I'm like, I've got a decision to make. Do I play next week, knowing it's not fully healed, and knowing that if I let the team down, it's on me? Or if I sit out and they lose, and I knew I could have gone in and helped. So I was like, I'm sitting there thinking that through my head. And the first half, I'm like, we're all over them, but so many missed opportunities. We could have been up by 30.
I think Gazza could have scored 4 tries.
Yeah, he could have scored 4 tries. And then, it was literally one of those games where it just wasn't meant to be. Like, the scrum at the end, it should have just been play on.
Should have been a penalty to us.
Penalty to us. Like, it was just one of those things. And then obviously the Anasta field goal, and then the Footy intercept to put Kenny down. But like,
it's footy.
It's footy, and like, some had some guys later on go, Footy threw that intercept. I'm like, yeah, but you see the game. Footy kept us in the game when we were like,
but it was also the 90-something minute too.
Yeah, the 90-something minute. I go back in the game when everyone was, falling down, and he was like, and just so it was one of those things. It was,
but Kenny Dow doesn't take that catch. There's 2-on-1 on the outside.
So
that's what people don't understand.
So many things. So that was that was one of the hardest games to watch because of the fact that it just it would have put us in a position.
Yeah.
Would have put us in the opposite side to the Dragons. I think it was probably us two playing in form at that point in time.
Yep.
And so obviously we had to meet in the prelim, but
So did you play the week after against Canberra?
So I played the week after.
How were you feeling going into that game?
Yeah, pretty nervous. Again, I think once I got in the first contact, I was all right. I think one of my second tackles, though, I missed like an easy tackle on Bronson Harrison, and he went through and scored because I was just hesitant and tried to tackle with the other shoulder to avoid the side that was sort of badly broken.
Yep.
And I just had to sort of go, you know what, like if it breaks again, like I'd rather break my jaw again and not let the team down than than let the team down and lose and whatnot and miss out. So fortunate enough, we got to a lead, and that was the one where again we were busted. I think Benji had a medial injury.
Did he come off?
He
came off against the Roosters.
Roosters, yeah. So we were busted, and I think that probably made my decision because we already had a lot of injuries, and then our key guys were sort of out. And I'm like, I've got to play. So that made my decision for me. And then we were falling over the line at the back end, and that Canberra were coming back, and that was when Jared Croker missed the goal to go to extra time. So which was good to get us through the prelim.
And then you go to play the Dragons, which I still think was a penalty on Lottie Takiri, the knees in the back.
Yeah, again, like, it's literally you need everything to go your way. And I look at, we had the team to win, yes, but you need luck. No luck around that first week. Into that next week, Todd Payton, our best forward all year,
Forgot about this.
on captain's run, we're doing warm ups. Rolls his ankle on a tennis ball, is out. So ruled out. Like,
and he was in some great form.
He was great form, and he was the middle. If you look at like Isaiah Yeo, who for Penrith, imagine taking him out day before the game and just what that does to the team. He was
mostly defensively what Toddy was doing too. He was so good.
Yeah, and that's probably like he was playing like an Isaiah Yeo. He was back in his day where he had the ability to ball play, but he had his running game solid defensively, and so we just took him out. When you took him out, it just obviously put strain on us. But it was a good game, and I think it was like 10-12 or 12 all or 12 all or 10 all or something like that. And then we got an opportunity to go down, and I think Lottie made a half break and got some knees in the back, and we didn't finish off the set well. I think Soward went up the other end and kicked a 40-metre field goal, and then we had a chance on the bell to try to score, but but look, it was probably should have been a penalty. But in saying that, there's probably a lot of things before that should have happened. We could have probably taken advantages of some other opportunities. But it was a great game. I feel that should have been the grand final. In a grand final, again, the pressure of everything, I think is different, maybe. But again, in hindsight, anything can be different.
Well, it's rugby league. It is what it is. And back into that year, you make the Four Nations Australian squad. Yeah,
that was really obviously good. It was good to I suppose get picked in that squad. I wasn't sort of expecting it. In 2009, I got into the train-on squad. I think they only did a couple of games, so they didn't pick a big squad. So I sort of knew I got picked in the train-on squad. Hope I'd be in the mix. To get called up into the squad was awesome. I knew I wouldn't get a lot of game time, and I'd just be part of the Emus. But I thought if I can get one game and just take that with both hands. And fortunate enough for me, the game I got. The first two games were, I think, against Great Britain and Papua New Guinea. So my game, because we had won through the final, so they played the Emus against New Zealand at Eden Park. So that was awesome.
Any fond memories of that game?
It was just actually because you've played in junior footy against the Kiwis and things like that, but playing the Kiwis, the Haka and Eden Park, I think it was close to a full house. Just the atmosphere of that, was pretty good.
When you come up against the Haka, because obviously Benji would have been in the opposite. Were you looking at Benji, or were you looking at other players that you played with?
No, I think I was just more scanning and taking it in. I think I was good because you've played against these players, and especially the ones that you're marking up against. It's like a challenge, and I like it because it's like. There, obviously, it's trying to be an intimidating, obviously, war cry.
Yep.
But for me, it was like, all right, yes, it sort of switches you on because they're on here, like this is, and you can hear the crowd, and you're like, it just gets you that excitement because that's what you want to play in a big game like that, and you want to play with against the best. So it definitely gets you up for the games.
And it's obviously, you have that great year in 2010.
Mm.
We go to 2011. I think we had an okay start that year,
Yeah.
but we go on a bit of a good run. I think we win 7 or 8 in a row.
Yeah.
But you do your hip.
Yeah.
People don't understand how bad that sort of injury was. Like, your hip popped out and they couldn't get it back in on the field. I remember it was at Campbelltown that night, wasn't it?
Yeah, Campbelltown gets the Raiders, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, what do you think? Because you spoke about you slowed down a bit. Do you reckon that hip injury really took a bit of its toll on you?
Yeah, that was probably one of the things. There was a few others after it that probably contributed to it more.
Because you got a couple of hammies, didn't you?
Hammies, then I had a bad ankle, which probably wasn't diagnosed properly. And 2013, I remember me and you played, and once they finally diagnosed it mid-year, they said, "Oh, actually, you've got complete fracture at the bottom of your ankle. All this meniscus is torn. You pretty much need surgery. You're going to be out for 5 months." And that was from initially going diagnosis, just a bit of bone bruising. It's just sore. I'm like, I can't run. I can't get off my toes. And everyone's going, you slow down. I'm like, yeah, because I'm running in concrete boots. And then
But they're trying to say it was a bit to do with your hip, wasn't it?
my hip definitely slowed me down, but I ended up coming up and playing at the end of the 2011 season.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Playing get picked in the Australian team again. I actually played every game and got in the starting side and got picked every game. And then, so I don't think I lost a lot of speed, probably that really, really top end speed, but the acceleration I lost with my ankle. And that was in 2013. So injured at round 1.
Ugh.
And then I still remember in round 1, and again, probably the hip was probably more talked about, but round 1, injured my ankle, said to the doc, "Oh, it's injured," and he has bone bruising. And then I started running funny, and I couldn't run, did my hammy because I was running awkwardly about 5 weeks later.
So like favouring it a bit.
Favouring it, and then I did it bad. Then 4 weeks of no running with the hammy, came back my first running session, and I'm limping, and the physio is like, "Oh, your hammy's no good." I go, "My hammy's sweet. I can't run my ankle."
Oh, really?
And they're like, "Oh, well," I'm like, "Can I get a scan?" And I had to beg them to get a scan.
Yep.
No, it's all right. And then I ended up getting back from my hammy and still still limping. And I still remember after one of the games, I got picked in City Country.
Yep.
And I pulled out, and Freddie comes and goes, "Mate, what?" Like, because some guys pulled out and clubs wanted to pull them out.
Yeah, because
and I'm like, I really wanted to play. I go, "Mate, I can't run. I literally can't. I feel like I've literally got a rock in my ankle."
Yep.
And so I go, "No, I'm going to get a scan off my own bat," and that's where I got a scan, and that had all this damage in my ankle.
So you basically need ankle reconstruction.
Basically, so they had to open up, shave the bottom of the bone because it was all cracked, and remove. There was a lot of fragmented bone and cartilage, and then it was. I didn't end up running, so that I got it, and it was the same time. So I remember you had your knee.
Yep.
We said pretty much said you can keep playing. It's not going to get that much worse in the rest of the year, or we can get it done now. And so me and you had a pact. Yeah, okay, we'll keep playing until we can't make the semis, and then we'll go get surgery. So we literally, because we were busted, our team were busted, and we were playing like back rowers and on the wing.
Yep.
And I'm like, I can't.
That was a tough year.
Yeah, so I'm like, I can't not play, and that's one of the things people look back in hindsight. Really, if I was selfish, I just not play because no one else knows how bad you're injured, but the team around you know. But it was more, I didn't want to let them down.
Yeah, that's
so I'm like, if I can just be a body on there and at least play at 60, 70%, and we can somehow get in the finals, and I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks out, we couldn't make it, and me and you both go, we pull the pin, we go, we can't make it, so we'll go.
I think we're becoming a bit more of a liability at the end because we couldn't even train with the boys, and
couldn't do anything.
But I think we got a couple of blokes back from injury back end of that year. So it sort of made the decision a little bit easier.
So I remember it was August. I got the surgery in August. I didn't run on the field again until January.
Yep.
So
Jesus.
It was.
I think we're all because I think Tedesco got it as well, didn't he?
Yeah. And so he got the stem cell. So mine was ankle. I had to clean out, and they fixed that up, and then they had to shave the bone. It was like an ankle, and that took me ages, and that pretty much put me behind the 8 ball in 2014. And so missed the preseason, and that's where I probably lost a lot of speed because I didn't get the running in and the volume you needed to get the strength back. Then you're playing again, and then it's ended 2014, and people are saying, you did your hip in 2011, but again 2011 I did my hip. 2012, it was more 2013 when I did my hip. So it was that did take a bit, but that after that ankle, I lost that acceleration off the mark, which is an outside back. You need that acceleration to punch through the line.
We speak about injuries. Obviously, the toughest one
Yeah.
that I think that I known as a mate, knowing you, and then seeing you come back from recovery was the face, mate. Like, just I don't think many people understood. I'd love to be able to get the X-ray you showed me that day.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to
we'll
get the
get it.
X-ray and put it on social media just to show people how hard. What did the doctor say when he was putting it back together? It was like a jigsaw piece.
Yeah, he said it's like a jigsaw puzzle. He goes, like you've again had a car accident and gone straight through the windshield. And he goes, they said we see this with really bad like head-on car accidents where you've sort of gone and your face has gone straight into the steering wheel.
Yep.
But yeah, it was pretty much just they said your face has sort of just imploded and had to put it back together like a jigsaw puzzle. So it was definitely again it was one of the tougher. Everyone said compared to the hip. The hip was more painful in the actual injury, and as you mentioned, like it was out for 2.5 hours. It was out for about 3 hours, so
Jeez.
none of the pain meds worked. But once the hip went back in, like they knocked me out. Once that went back in, the next few days, it just felt like a really bad cork around my hip. So it wasn't that bad after. Like the actual recovery, it was long and there was complications, but yeah, it wasn't as bad. But then the face was painful. Don't get me wrong, but it was the length of the recovery. It was the unknown because it was like they couldn't tell you like with the hammy, hey, you done your hammy, you're out for 8 weeks. Here's the recovery protocol.
Yep.
First 2 weeks you do this. It was like we don't know. And like again, everyone's like, do we send you to a plastic surgeon? Do we send you to a jaw surgeon? We don't even know who is the best person to fix your face. Like it was just.
I remember speaking to the West Tigers physios, Pat Williams and Pete Musa, and to this day they still said that's the hardest injury they've ever had to get back to someone playing.
Yeah,
because like you said, it was unknown. Never seen it before.
Well, and that's the thing, and so that like no one knew. Again, I did it. I knew it was bad. Had a head clash. Benny Madaleno.
I was going to say, how did it all happen? So
I was just training in New Zealand, 2 days for a game. And then it wasn't even a full contact session. It's just like a bit of an opposed. And me and Benny Madaleno, someone sort of punched your line. You know, when you come around the back of someone and as we've come down, dropped our heads, he's dropped his head, I've lifted mine, and he's sort of top of his head just hit me square in probably the point where it's one of the most weakest, and that's just basically imploded my face. And then I went down straight away. I'm like, I thought I'd done my cheekbone, and then I'm like, oh no, I've done my jaw. And then as sort of time went on, I'm like, I could feel everything else. I'm like, actually, it's a lot worse. But it's funny. The first thing I thought was, I'm like, you're kidding me. I'm like, because Madge's first year, and we absolutely got towed up. Like, don't get me wrong, like the training was definitely tough with Ivan. I think Ivan, when he was there, the running he did was definitely a lot harder. But the contact went up to another level when Madge came. I'm like, I've just got through, literally 2 days before first trial. I've just done 3 months of preseason. I'm going to be out. So that's the first thing that went through my head. And then I just realized, this is pretty bad. But then it was the toughest thing on the field then, which I didn't know at the time. It was actually a ambulance strike in New Zealand at the time.
You're joking.
So I'm Pete Moose, the physio. I'm like signaling to him, like, get me the green whistle. Like I couldn't talk because all the blood was rushing down the back of my throat. So I could barely get any air in. And so I'm just like, get me some, I can't talk. Get me some, like, give me the morphine injection. Give me some. And he's like, oh, we don't have anything. Like, we don't have that here. We're not like, there's no doctor here.
So were you like getting a little bit of anxiety there, like stressing because you?
It was more because I'm like, where? And I'm like doing this, like, where's the ambulance? Because he said, oh, the ambulance will have it. I'm like, so I'm doing that, and then I'll be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and after about sort of 20 minutes, he goes, mate, I'm gonna be really honest with you. I don't know how long you could be here for, over an hour. And then there was a bit of panic there because I realized, and I was really struggling to breathe, and I'm like, you know what? If I start choking on my blood, like no one's got any equipment here to help me. But like I'm like, and it just is like that realization. I'm like, you have to calm down, otherwise, you can't work yourself up. So I literally sat there on the ground. Ronnie Palmer sat back to back with me, and I just like literally meditated. I just one breath, and I just tried to get a little bit of air I could at a time, just like every bit of air, and sat there for an hour, and that helped calm me down. I sort of now afterwards know just from some people I'd work with around, reducing your stress response and whatnot, they go, just that little bit of air I could got through that one nostril meant that, I actually, reduced my, my fight or flight because I was in that fight or flight, relax myself. So then wasn't feeling as much pain.
Yep.
And you sort of go in that meditative state. And they go, that probably saved your life, because if you stayed, and the ambulance didn't come for about an hour and 20. So he goes, if you stayed in that heightened response, your pain would have gone through, and eventually you again would have panicked and did that. So that was the hard part for that. And then straight away I thought, yeah, like with an injury, you're going to go and get surgery. Let's go and get surgery. Cool. Get the hospital. All right, we're going straight in. They go, nah. They go, we can't operate on you now. Like, your face is way too swollen. It's like, yeah, it pretty much, we can't do anything. You have to A, wait until it's the swelling's gone down, and B, we have to figure out what we can do, because again, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We don't know what to do. So we waited in, and I couldn't fly back because of the swelling. They were worried about me losing my eyesight. Had to, the team went and played, went back.
Yep.
I stayed in hospital for about a week and a half. My wife flew over, and then I stayed in the hotel right next to the airport for about a week, week and a half. And every day check with the doctor. Has the swelling come down enough? Nah, you got to wait another day. And then finally they go, okay, let's fly home. So fly home, and then the process started about, okay, we've got to find a surgeon. We've got to find, what are we doing here? So yeah, it was pretty. That was full on. And then the hardest thing about the recovery, the surgery, that was after the surgery, the first week after surgery, that was really painful. Like, it was, because you couldn't eat, and I went for a period of 13 weeks, didn't eat a solid food, because I couldn't eat a solid food. So I dropped 12 kilos.
I remember when I come visit you.
Yeah.
And just the way your face was too. Like,
just
it was
dropped so much weight.
Your face, you were unrecognisable.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
And that's the thing. And I got, initially, it probably would have been about after 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, I hadn't really left the house. And again, because I'd dropped so much weight. So you drop so much weight anyway, but the structure of my face had changed. They pretty much said, because
remember your teeth were a bit.
The teeth were dropped down because of my jaw. And they basically said, look, once you're healed, we'll go get some, dental. You basically get some stuff to raise the jaw. So they said, look, it's a process. But then I went after about 6 weeks, so we went down the local, local shops just in IGA and whatnot, but didn't leave the house. But then run into people, and same thing. They go, oh, you look completely different. You're so unrecognisable. And I started getting so self-conscious about it at the time.
As you would, yeah.
And I'm like, because I'm like, your face is like your identity. And I'm like, I don't feel like myself. Again, I had dropped 10 kilos or whatever it would be, but I just got the shit. So one day I was just for the most part, I was positive, and all the injuries that I'd had suffered beforehand gave me the strategies and things I knew how to overcome them. I'm like, okay, all the things I learnt from the hip and all the other injuries, I just apply these things, but you still have your bad days. And I still remember the one really bad day I had, and my wife was at work, so I was home by myself, and I'm like, nah, this is bullshit. Like, the surgeon stuffed up here. I'm like, nah, he's done a shit job. He's done a shit job. So I called the surgeon. I need to come see her now. And I don't know what that was going to achieve. And so I was like, rang him up, went to the doctors, and then chatted to him. And he's like, mate, your face is still sort of settling and healing. You put on weight, things will, it's not exactly the same, as in the structure had to have changed. But he pretty much was saying, you're overreacting in this case, wait till everything settles down. But for me, I'm like, well, you don't have to look in the mirror every day. I was going to
say, it's easy for them to say that.
So I didn't know what they wanted to achieve, and I sort of walked out of the hospital, and I just remember, jumping in a lift and walking out and seeing some other people in the hospital for legitimate reasons. I remember seeing a kid just on a drip, and again, it wasn't the children's hospital, so might not have been something bad, but straight away it's just like, what are you carrying on about? Like,
puts things in perspective.
Bit of perspective. I'm like, and that's probably what I needed. Not going and blowing up at the surgeon, but just a bit of reality check. Go, you know what? Like, your face is going to look different. You might get better, but you're healthy. The doctor said if everything heals, you can come back and play. So your career's not over. Loving family, really, who cares? And I'm like, okay, sweet. And that was about a week or two before I could actually start going back in the club and actually start training again. So that probably is what gave me that little bit of getting over that. And then, okay, what can I focus on getting back now?
So we spoke about the unknown. What was the return to play like, and how long did it take you? Because this has never happened before in rugby league. Normally there's protocols with hamstrings. You start running after, 10 days, blah, blah, blah. How was the process of getting back onto the field?
So it was, once I could start training, I think I had to wait like a good 2 months after the surgery. They pretty much said I can't sweat, I can't sneeze because all the little bolts, like anything that put pressure, like you can't go on anything that is going to put pressure or heat like the face. So I couldn't do anything. That was the hardest thing. Again, being proactive and knowing with my hip, what got me through my hip was every day I could go in and focus on, I'm just focusing on this today to take that, and so the hardest thing was 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks of doing nothing. And that's where I think I got in the bad headspace.
And you're the type of bloke that you love your exercise, you love doing something.
Yeah. And so that's probably where and then at the back of the 6 to 8 weeks, got in that really bad headspace where I went and saw the doctor. So once then they said, you can come in and start training. They said at the 4 or 5 month mark, they'll do x-rays and make sure the strength was right for any contact and make sure the okay. But I had to then basically, again, I think it was nearly 13 kilos I had lost. So I played at 100 between 100 and 102.
And you're at peak fitness because you're 2 days before an actual trial match.
Yeah, so I was peak fitness. I think I dropped down about 88 kilos.
Jeez.
And so I basically had to come in and do another preseason. So the next 2 months, I did one-on-one training with the rehab crew. So, and it was basically, we need to put size on you. So once I could start eating in, that obviously helped. But it was literally weight session. You're doing 10 sets of 10 bench, 10 sets of 10 squats. You're doing volume, and then you're out and you're just running laps. You're doing 5K run because we need volume in you. And then, so that was, but because I'd come from being at home, being isolated, I didn't care. I'm like, that's all right. I've loved it. I'm back into it. So as boring as the training was, I was back into it. So it was all right. And then once I got to a certain point, I could actually start training with the rehab group. So again, that helped as well. So it was good in a sense that it was so much better than being at home. So the actual training, and as hard as, again, doing another preseason was, I would do it 10 times over than going through that 6 week period, sitting at home by yourself every day, not being able to do anything. That was really hard. That was the hardest part. The training was easy. And then once you got back into it, once I got the okay to do contact, I still remember the first wrestle session we did. So they okayed me. And I'm like, you know what? I've just got to get 100 mile an hour here. I can't do my time. And so I took a hit up, and the boys sort of let me punch their nose through and didn't want to tackle me. And then I'm like, nah, boys, like, you got to get stuck into me. Otherwise, like, I'm not going to know. So then the next one, I'm like, I think it was Russell Packer and someone else. I've run and they've just jammed me and I've just gone flying backwards. But then that, I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, that's confidence. And then from there, it just sort of got in. And I think to this day, everyone goes, why did you come back? And for me, it took me a bit of, I don't know. Like, at the time, I didn't know. And I'm like, I don't know. I got this burning desire. I don't know what it is. And it was only towards getting back to playing, I knew what it was. And my burning desire, again, I'm not getting any better. I'm not going to make any rep sides. I was hoping we we're going to win grand final, but we're sitting mid-table. So, it's not highly likely. And my biggest thing was that you hear about all the players who retire and all the memories, and the biggest thing they said, being able to share the memories with their kids, and having memories of having their kids on the field and whether it's the last game or any particular game. And my daughter wasn't old enough at that point in time to remember it.
To take it all in,
To take it all in. So all I want to do, my only goal of getting back, I didn't care if it meant getting injured again, was to get back on the field so I could get my daughter on the field and she could have the memory of her dad playing football. And that was it. And then still remember the last game that year, we played you guys, Sharks, at Leichhardt Oval. And then got to bring her on the field, like, you had Buster on the field, and just that memory. And I still have that photo of me giving her a kiss up on my wall, and she walks past it every day. So I'm like, so for me, that's worth it. I'm like, and everyone at the time, why would you do it again? Robbie Farrow goes, you're crazy for coming back. But that, and if I didn't have that, I probably wouldn't have. I'm like, nah, it's too hard. There's no point, risk of injury again. But I'm like, nah, it was just something in me, which I wouldn't have gone through that if I didn't have that desire and that motivation to do it.
Well, I remember watching you for your first game back when you did come back, because we were obviously very close, and our wives are very close as well. One of your first carries, I think someone clocked you around the face, didn't they? Or defensively, you got hit, and our heart just sunk for that 1 second, but then you got straight back up.
I probably would have got a penalty in today's day and age. I did, because I dropped the ball. I hit a hole and I dropped the ball, and I'm like, I think it was my second carry.
Yep.
And I've dropped the ball, but they've clocked me high, like their shoulders hit me. So I've gone down, laid down, and just to, if you get hit high these days, you're just like,
what's happening?
To try to get a penalty. But then as I'm doing it, I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, you're going to stress your family out. So I just I stopped and jumped straight back up. because I wanted it. I probably would have got a penalty in today's day and age. But yeah, it was all. I didn't have any apprehension. I'd done all the work prior to that.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I think I dropped 2 or 3 balls. I had a bit of a shocker, but
Mate,
just getting back on the field was
just to see you back out there, mate. As a mate, I was so pumped for you. One thing about the West Tigers over the years, they've had quite a few coaches. So you debuted in 2006. You had Sheensy for, 6 or 7 years?
Yep.
He got, obviously, Rissold. You went through Mick Potter. You went through Jason Taylor, Ivan Cleary, Michael Maguire. Talk to us about the coaches and like, just the merry-go-round there. What was it like, obviously, being, coached by Sheensy for a long period of time? Yeah. You probably knew and you were set in certain ways that Sheensy had. And then when we got Mick Potter in, that was just completely different, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think for me, I found the hardest thing was you had to get to know them again, and it was almost like you had to earn their respect again. And not that, when you get to know a coach, they know, all right, we know your work ethic. I can speak to you. This is what, and they know how to get the best out of you, and you've got that trust in them. But it's building that trust, building that respect all over again. And it's like every 2 or 3 years you had to do it again. So it's like I felt like you waste a large portion of the preseason feeling each other out.
Yep.
What do you like as a coach? How do you interact with your players? What do you want from me? And you don't know, are they a straight shooter or are they going to tell you what you want to hear and what type of person are they?
Yep.
And everyone's feeling each other. And that was probably the hardest thing because then it's like you waste the opportunity to go, how can we get better? Like, if they know, all right, I know how to get the best out of you and I know what you need from me. If we know that from day one, cool, let's just focus on that day one preseason and get better at that one thing.
Yeah.
And it was just so much of that. And because of that uncertainty with a lot of play, and new times that's how I felt. Imagine across a squad of 30.
Yep.
And then they've got their own structure and style, and then it takes time to implement that. And then the change over coaches, and then they've got to redo it. Oof. And it's just a cycle. So I do get asked a lot about the coaches, and I said, well, it's hard because, chicken or the egg,
Yep.
Do you stick at what point do you say it's the wrong coach? And I'm like, yeah, exactly right. Because, at times they're saying, oh, it's a player. So they've cleaned out the players. Then, oh, no, it's the coach. They cleaned out the coach. But in actual fact, it's lack of stability. And it's now knowing the lack of stability is what creates that uncertainty, And again, it can just be, even if it's not real, if it's perception of players that there's uncertainty, then it becomes real. It manifests in people's minds about it's real. If you're comfortable in that you've got the stability and you know what you need to do, then in your mind, whether outside, in the walls and in the CEO's office and the coach's office, they could be talking about getting rid of you. Oof. But as long as if in your mind you feel comfortable and stable, that is all that matters as a footy player. It's the mindset of the footy players. Whereas
totally agree.
If the mindset of the team is, I don't know where I stand, is the coach going to be here next year? Is there uncertainty? Then that's when the performance, that's when, not should I say the performance lacks, because you still got pride in your performance. Yeah. But if you do that every week, it takes the focus away from your performance. And to beat your best, you need no distractions and to focus on this one thing. And that's why the teams that have, no off-field dramas, that have stability off the field, it's not that they're better players. It's that they don't have to worry about directing their energy elsewhere. They literally can focus on what they need to do. And the coach really narrowing it down to, here are the key things we need you to do. Mm-hmm. Come in today and do those things. Come in tomorrow, do those things. On Saturday, do those things. And that's it. Everything else, then you can relax when you go home. And
Which it wasn't happening.
Yeah, and it doesn't happen. And that's probably the hardest thing with clubs. And it takes the hardest thing, it takes being able to, one, get the right mix of players, and two, have a coach that fits with the right mix of players to give them a long enough to then go, now we have stability, and now we have the perception of stability. So anyone we do sign is comfortable knowing that coach is going to be there.
And I suppose you're not having to pay overs as well, because you know that players want to be at that joint.
Yeah, I know.
You had Ivan Cleary he probably would have been there for just over a year, you reckon?
Yeah,
because he came midway through 2017, and then
a year and a half, I think.
You've seen what he's gone on to achieve now? Yeah, 3 in a row, which could be 4, and playing his 5th consecutive grand final. His opportunity to have that. Did you see that in him when he was at West Tigers? And did you have a good time under Ivan while he was coaching there?
Yeah, I love playing under Ivan. You could definitely see that. Just his style of coaching. It was he was very laid back, but when it came to the being able to deliver on the training ground, very to the point. And if you weren't up to standard, again, he would just flog you. He had Ronnie Palmer next to him. He would just look at Ronnie Palmer, and if he didn't like it, Ronnie would blow a whistle, and you'd just be getting
On the line.
and getting flogged.
Yep.
And so you knew what you had to do, and it was very much about the effort areas.
Yep.
And so, again, but then was laid back. So you came in, and you didn't feel like you were wound up the whole time. Off the field, you come in, and it was just so laid back. And then you only had to really get yourself up for the training, which over every single day, that not having to waste energy, then you become more relaxed, you become more comfortable, and he simplified the game. For me, anyway, again, I was in the back row then. He pretty much said, all right, you got to protect Brooksy.
Yep.
You got to hunt the half, so I want you to pressure the half. Anytime a half gets out the back, you're pressuring the half. I want you to lead the kick chase. Yeah, and so you pretty much go hunt the half, you're owning the edge of defence. You're gonna you're gonna lead the kick chase, and then anytime Brooksy runs the ball, you're hitting a hole, and you allow Brooksy to run. And he goes, "You do those 3 things. I don't care about anything else. I don't care stats, and I don't care whatever. You make sure every time Brooksy's running the ball, you're providing an option, and you're a viable option. Make sure you run as hard as you can in the hole."
And that was Brooksy's best season, wasn't it? Didn't he get Dally halfback, and I think he was second in the running for Dally M?
Because he said to Brooksy, Rowdy's just going to hit a hole for you. You get the ball, you run. Okay?
Yep.
You run
that's
run
his best
first.
attribute.
And you run first. And then, Benji was playing sort of half at the time.
Yep.
There's a year signed Josh Reynolds, but he got Grubby got injured sort of round 1. But I think regardless, they probably would have played the same, where it would have been either, Bags or Grubby that were sort of running things.
Yep.
And then Brooksy, you run. You just run, let them organise, let them pass, kick, you just run.
Yep.
And he parked himself a lot of times on the short side, looked up if he saw it on the long side, you just come around and call it. And he just simplified things, which was, and you can see it in the game now. Especially the forward, you see a lot of forwards in the Penrith side now, and you can liken them to a lot of forwards, say, in the Melbourne Storm system, where they're just doing their job. They're like, they're playing really well, because
100%.
He's probably saying, all right, I need you to get down, win the first 3 tackles. That's all I want you to do. Get back. We'll let our back 5 carry. Don't worry about meters. Don't worry about that. But when you run, you need to win the tackle and fast play. Like, just really simple things that, as long as you're doing those things, you don't have to worry about everything else.
Yeah, he did simplify the game, and I remember playing under Ivan. Let me get the first 10 minutes. Before and after half time, and before it started.
Getting into it,
just that certain period of time. Mate, one thing I remember when I was at the club with you, Chrissy, was we always used to speak about old boys and things like, the club probably doesn't emphasize much on it, because it is it isn't a long-standing club, because it's a joint venture.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the West Tigers alumni program. That's something that you've done a lot of work with.
Yeah. So it probably started. So me and Paddy Richards are now sort of heading that up now and driving that now, and it all started about sort of 2 or 3 years ago. I got invited to Passport Legends race day for the Tigers, and we went there, and then they asked me, do you want to become part of their heritage committee? So talking about how we can do past play events. And at the at that sort of race day, there was me, and at the time I was still doing 1 day a week work for the Tigers with careers. So when I transitioned the first 2 years, helped out the careers and education, which tied into my business. There was Scando, who works at the club, Chris Hyington, who just signed to then become a coach of the club, and Pat Richards, who does ambassador work for the club. And we came to this heritage meeting, and they spoke about, what a success the race day was. And I said, with all due respect, like, what do you mean? How's that a success? Like, they go, we had 30 players there. We had, 20 of the, West old boys from the 60s and the Balmain. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's awesome. They had them there, but we had 4 West Tigers players. Like, that can't be
not good enough.
Success. Like, and it was from there I sort of realised a lot, and it is hard because it is a foundation, 2 foundation clubs coming together. And yes, 100% you have to respect your heritage and have those days. But at that point in time was 22 or 3 years. Now it's 25 years the West Tigers have been, and there hadn't been anything specifically for the club. So for me, I was sort of, and again, I'd been a couple of years out as well, and you lose a bit of that connection with with footy. So I'm like, okay, how can I selfishly reconnect and have a way to connect back with, your past players? So, a couple of us go, how can we do it? So we, found some sponsors and donors to then put some events on, and when we could present each new alumni member. So as soon as you retire from the game, you become part of the alumni. And then each year we have sort of some events where present with something special that is a bit of a token to reconnect with the club. And so it's something that it took a while, and obviously with the changes with everything going on in the club last year, made it hard to launch. to get the support of the club and just the wrong timing. So we decided to wait until the start of this year. Did a big event at the start of the year. Got sort of 30 players back involved, and
30 players is outstanding.
Which is outstanding. Now we now got sort of out of, I think, the 200 odd players. We've a couple more now that the big fella now that you're retired. But
I wonder if they'll welcome me back.
Yeah, mate. Trust me. The funny thing is, you look across the group, there have been so many players that have had bad exits of the club.
Yeah.
But it's just a bit, and that's what we call the first event, the reconnect, because like, hey, a lot of people who made those decisions aren't here now, and it's not about them, and it's not about, it is about the players that are played with, and everyone wants to connect back together. So
Sweet.
We've got about, group at the moment, about 80 or 90 in a WhatsApp group that engage, and we do want to grow it. Paddy's been great and driving a lot of things as well. And for us, it's about how can we reconnect everyone who has played for the West Tigers, celebrate their contribution. Everyone's come through different eras, but to be able to play one game takes so much sacrifice. Celebrating that, but also to how can we in ourselves build a community association we can actually give back to the club and drive some and drive growth of the club. Like we just had a 25-year past players event, which is good. We raised money, so part of that is going to go to funding one of the Cubs camps.
Oh, man.
So we're going to send them away on a camp. So things like that where it's like, well, what can we do? Well, juniors pathway is a big thing.
Massive.
If giving them an extra camp is going to help their development, okay, we're going to fund a camp for them.
Oh, that's unreal.
So just things like that, and again, good chance to catch up, go to games, and just for us, like I think Manly do it well, but I think Storm and Knights do it the best. The Old Boys,
Old Boys Day,
the players know and get up for Old Boys Day. So we want to build it where every single Tigers player know that that's awesome. Once I retire, I get to be part of this group. Look how they connect. Look how they catch up, and they feel that support there. And I think again, it just helps on the field. If there's that support from that past playing group, you just get that added sense of confidence. So
I think you look at the clubs trying to go at Manly, like Mark Bryant. They've created a Golden Eagles. So they do a march from the Lees Club to the Brookvale Oval on an Old Boys Day. The boys do a guard of honour, and you go back to the Lees Club after and have a few beers and just social. Obviously, the club's been around a lot longer than what West Tigers has. So they've got a lot more members, but it's a great initiative that you've done, and it's something that, being a past player, looking forward to getting around, speaking to a lot of the old boys. It'll be good fun.
Good fun.
Lastly, but not something I've talked to you about, and we talk about a fair bit, is what's it like having a sister in the media? Especially Emma. Like she's obviously started off, she was a sideline, just a little Channel 9 reporter. Now she's everywhere. She's Triple M royalty, doesn't stop. We see her everywhere, mate.
Yeah, no, she's really good. Like it was funny when she first she got her journalism and communication degree. She got a high flying corporate job, and I think probably would have made. If we're talking about money, she would have made way more money than that. And she just didn't like it because she loved sport. It's like, and she went back to Fox Sports and then sort of started from the bottom and worked her way up because she loves sport. And I say to everyone, there's every presenter has their own strengths and weaknesses, and male and female presenters. But again, sometimes a lot of the female presenters get tagged in a certain way as to why that. But I said she literally loves sport and loves footy. She would off her own bat come and watch me play. She's watched me play footy from an under 8s and never missed a game, and enjoyed to come watch me play footy when she was young. So she's grown up with footy. She enjoys footy. She would sit and watch every game if she could of footy. So she likes footy.
She's a footy head, eh?
She's a footy head, and she likes footy, and she has an interest in it. But she's always wanting to learn and work hard. So I think. She has done the hard yards. She's, learned herself. She's grown. She keeps obviously, honing her skills as not only as a presenter, but with a footy knowledge. I know when I was playing, and if she was, say, going on Triple M, like on one of the shows, and it was a controversial topic, she'd call me up and just say, well, what do you think about this? Is my opinion on this, and we'd debate back and forth.
Do you ever have to say, Emma, just pull back here? You got to remember, from a player's point of view, this is what we think about people that have comments.
Well, a lot of the family outings these days turn into an argument about league, because if she's got an opinion, she's like, no, but that's bullshit. And I'm like, no, you don't know. Like, did you play? Did you put shoes on? And but the fact is, she has, and that she loves that, because she goes, okay, I get to hear both sides of it. This is what I think, and she's very good at giving a good reason as to her opinions. But she go, okay, what, and we would have that conversation. So, about, well, from a player's perspective, you got to remember, if a player's going through this or this and this and this is what's happening in their life, or they're probably directed to say this, so you're only seeing this part of it. And like, oh, okay, that's right. So that's, I can hope maybe say that that's helped her. But to be honest, it's all her. Like she's done the hard work. She's done the sidelines. Done the journalism bit across all sports. She loves the footy the most. But she just enjoys it. So
it's so good to see.
She's gonna have to slow down now with a little one coming soon. So I've told her
she doesn't know what she's having either, does she?
Doesn't know what she's having. I don't think she'll know what to do with a girl, especially if she's not sporty. I think she's hoping it's a boy. He plays footy. I think she'll love that.
As long as it's healthy, I'm sure
That's
Emma will be.
Yeah.
And she's very proud of you, mate. I've spoken to her plenty of times. Our producer Semi, a massive West Tigers fan, and but this is he got a quote from you, right? At the end of one of the last games you played, I just want to be remembered as the guy who got out there and gave his all every time he was on the field, who did a job for his team and always put his body on the line and his team first. Mate, I'm a player to play with you for a long period of time, and I love playing with you. If I knew I was going to go out and play and I looked left and I knew you were there, I always knew I was going to be a better player, and I always knew West Tigers was going to be a better team, mate. There's no statement that, as a person that's selfless and a team first, you are what epitomise that, Chrissy, mate. And mate, I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast today, brother. It was really good to reminisce about the old days, mate.
Good chat, mate.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, legend. Thanks for having me on,
Thanks, mate.